And we are back with the College Lifter Show. I'm back with Ryan.
What's up?
And this week we're talking about weightlifting. More importantly, how to be good at weightlifting and really practice when you have a really difficult schedule because it takes a lot more time than CrossFit.
Yeah, definitely. You see like a CrossFit WOD, you can easily hit a 5, 10, 15-minute CrossFit WOD and be good for the day. Feel like you actually did something. Weightlifting, even if let's say you're just doing a snatch for that day, you have to do your mobility warm up, all those things, and it takes a lot more time for sure.
Yeah, so how do you handle it? I mean, you're a busy guy. You own a gym. You're going to school. What do you do?
For me, it's just it's kind of that I guess barbell shrug mentality of drop everything and train. That's an easy one to say. Especially for guys like that own a big company and have a lot of employees where they can say, this is what I'm going to do every day. I mean, not that it's easier for me or harder for me or anything, but my schedule gets a little hectic because I don't have quite the luxuries that they have of having all the employees and everything, so I can't just push all my stuff off all the time.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really just in the morning, get an idea for my day, what's going to go on, and if I have to do it earlier in the morning, great. If I can do it later, that's fine. And some days I don't get it in at all. It's just having a general idea of what's going on for the week and the day, and just planning ahead, just always planning ahead.
So on days you don't get it in, are you freaking out, or are you just like, you know what, I'll go on a run, I'll hit a quick CrossFit workout, do something, or just like forget it, whatever?
It's never a good feeling when you miss a workout, especially something that you plan to do. But I mean, it all goes back to what the time is. So like if we usually have a break later in the day. And if it's a quick workout that day, I'll hit that real quick. If I only got like 30 minutes, I'll hit the WOD, or if I got an hour, I'll try and say, okay, I'm gonna snatch and squat, something like that. So I'm always gonna try and get something in. I hate going a full day without any kind of exercise, without doing anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's a possibly controversial question: would you rather someone get in skill work or strength work? If you're looking to get just general person, probably a CrossFitter transferring over from CrossFit to weightlifting, you're looking at, you have limited time, what are you going to hit, skill or strength?
I'm saying strength every time.
Strength?
Yeah, I mean, skill has its place, but if you're talking about going from CrossFit to weightlifting, or anything to weightlifting, or weightlifting just period, you spend the time getting strong, you're going to get better. I mean, in weightlifting, your strength is your skill.
Yeah.
You as you're lifting, you're building those movements. So it's all going to kind of fall into the same place. I mean, obviously, you always talk about 33% speed, 33% strength, 33% technique.
Yeah.
And that's, obviously, but it's all the same lifts. As long as you're taking that time to focus on technique and you're not just like, okay, I'm going to rip the bar off the ground every time, there's obviously a fine line there.
What were you telling me the other day about you had this thing where you can get X percentage of your clean if your positioning isn't perfect, and X percentage of your snatch?
Yeah. So we kind of have a saying. It's not really science based or anything, but it's just a saying that you can only hit 30% of your potential one rep snatch with perfect technique that fits your body. You can only hit 30% of that if you just have bad technique and you're falling apart and you're just trying to muscle it off the ground. But you can hit closer to 75-80% of your clean by just muscling off the ground, because it is a shorter movement. The catch is less finicky. Overhead you have a small margin of error. In the clean, how many people you see recover a clean with the bar down here instead? I mean, it happens. So there's a lot bigger margin of error that you can land in and still be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of our theory on that. And obviously you always want to have good technique, but we talk about somebody like Brandon whose technique is perfect.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, very, very efficient. And if you don't know who Brandon is, he's our weightlifting coach here. He's a weightlifting athlete of mine. He just qualified for the American Open as well as junior nationals. He's 19 years old with a 152 kilo clean and jerk and 110 snatch, and has only been in the sport of weightlifting for about a year and a half.
Just a freak.
Yeah, just an absolute freak. But super humble, works super hard. But anyway, very efficient. You know, he can clean. He just cleaned 155 the other day.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I'm sorry. He cleaned 157 the other day. So about 345 pounds in there. And then he doesn't even front squat 400 pounds.
Really?
Yeah. He doesn't front squat 400. He's never hit 400 on front squat. He's working on it. That's our big goal for this chunk until we get to nationals. But to bump his squats up. But yeah, I mean, but it just goes to show how efficient. You know,
right.
You take. I mean, a lot of people front squat a big gap in between their front squat and their clean.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of what I'm saying there, is that there's an obvious correlation between those two lifts, and you can get really close, or you can be way back. You know, but that's an example of somebody who's very efficient, as opposed to, you know, somebody that says your front squat is 400 and only cleans, you know, 250.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think that's down to technique, or do you think they're just built like that? Kind of like the debate between the Chinese and the Russian. The Chinese are going to be closer in that margin. The most taller, long-legged people like me. What do you think about that?
Like what's better for weightlifting?
Yeah.
I think the kind of body type that you see the most in weightlifting, that's that wins the most, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The body type that wins the most is the long torso, short legs.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same with, like, you see, like, deadlifters, you know, world champion deadlifters are long torso, short legs, you know, a lot of times. So, you know, you look at a guy like George Lehman, he's got pretty long legs, and he's got like the heaviest raw deadlift in the world or something. But no, I definitely think it's long torso, short legs is the most efficient. You look at, Ilya, Klokov's pretty balanced, but he's definitely got a long torso. Lou Xiaojun's got a really long torso. A lot of those guys are very long torso.
I'm really impressed you knew how to pronounce his last name. I couldn't figure that out for like a year.
I was a little nervous.
Yeah, so back to busy schedule. So we're going to hit strength first before anything else. Now let's look at nutrition, right? So what's the differential? I'm transitioning from CrossFit to weightlifting. I got to worry about weight classes now. What am I supposed to look at?
Well, if you're excluding the super heavies, obviously, if you're falling anywhere in the middle, anywhere in those maximum weight classes, I'm going to say the biggest key is just learning yourself, learning your body, figuring out what your body likes, because everybody's different. Nobody can tell you what's going to work.
Right.
You have to figure that out, or you with your coach or whatever. But usually, let's say Brandon, for example, he stays around 30-40% carbohydrates on a normal day. That's like his off season. And then whenever we get closer, if he's trying to cut a couple pounds, we'll drop that down to about 10, 15, 20%, somewhere in there. He'll slowly decrease in weight. As far as, like, if we're just looking at macros, it's the easiest way to kind of break down nutrition. If we're looking at macros, we'll say proteins, fats are going to stay about the same no matter what. They're going to stay fairly high, about 1.5 grams per pound of body, per pound of body weight.
There you go.
Per pound of body. Now we're going to say about 1.5 grams per pound of your body. And then fats, we're going to look at around 30% of your total intake. If those are going to stay about the same, that's a pretty good ratio and amount for recovery. But carbs are the big decider. Carbs are going to control your whole glycemic level. It's going to control how much insulin you have outputting. Weightlifting in general just isn't a glycemic sport. It's definitely a phosphogenic sport. So you're staying in that ATP-PC cycle, ATP-CP cycle instead of the glycolysis cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you cut water?
I'm not a big fan of that. I really don't like the idea of cutting water, especially for like Brandon. We were here yesterday lifting, and he got a horrible leg cramp that lasted 5 hours. That's an awful thing for anybody.
Yeah, it's terrible.
You don't want to set that up for anybody. And water plays such a huge role in all the systems of the body. Right. That's not something to play with, in my opinion. You get all these high school guys that cut water and spit in cups and run around in sweatsuits and stuff, and
all the wrestlers.
And it's just so inefficient. And it's like, if you're dehydrated, your performance will be affected.
Right.
Like, there's no other way around it. You will be affected performance-wise. So keep the water up. Like Brandon will, if he has a late weigh-in in the morning, he just won't drink water up until the weigh-in. And other than that, he doesn't cut any water at all.
Okay.
Because there's no point in it. If you know how everything else is working, you don't need to worry about cutting down water.
All right. So if I'm a CrossFitter, I come into this, I want to weightlift, I'm sitting right in between two classes. Do I go up or down?
At first, no. Just get strong. Lift the weights. Yeah, lift weights. Go crazy. Eat. That's the time you kind of figure out your food, figure out what your body likes. Don't get too worried about that in the beginning. Just start lifting. Get comfortable in your lifts. Practice your lifts, and then go sign up for a meet. Go do a meet, and just get into the sport first. Start worrying about weight classes when it becomes, whenever you're starting to put up some pretty good numbers, and your weight's kind of, because obviously you're going to put on more muscle just doing weightlifting, and you're probably going to put on a little bit more body fat just because, But if you're playing with your diet, you may not. But so something may happen. You don't know how your body's going to adjust. Right. So I say just do it. Just commit to the training. Commit to figuring out your nutrition, and then just kind of see what it is from there. If you let's say you're right in between 77 and 85. You're right in the middle. You're about 81 kilos, and you're putting up okay numbers for an 85, but you're starting to put up starting to put up pretty good numbers for a 77. And let's say you're about 10% body fat, 10-12% body fat. Yeah, go ahead, cut down to 77. See what happens. Right. But there's always this other factor that a lot of people don't talk about that really affects this big area of should I lose or gain for whether it's weightlifting, track, or track like is in pole vaulting, weightlifting, whatever it may be, powerlifting. Your body's going to secrete your most efficient amount of hormones at a certain body weight. If you get too high and too low, it's going to mess you up. I had an experience with it when I was a freshman in college playing football. I was about 345 pounds. I was real big. And I know I didn't notice. Actually, the head strength coach there noticed, and it was amazing because he's over 150 athletes. Right, yeah. That's just football. Over 500 athletes in the whole school. He's over all of them. And one thing we did with football is we weighed in every day. Well, he came up to me one day, and I would get real aggravated sometimes because some days my strength would be awesome, some days my strength would suck. And he would come. This was before I really understood, being able to push that neurological limit, things like that. But he comes up to me, he's like, hey, I'm noticing that when your weight's up, whenever you're up closer to that 345, 350, your hormones are coming down. Whenever you're a little bit lower, you're much stronger. I'm like, really? Okay. So like that really opened my eyes. I'm like, I've never even thought about this. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. So I started playing with my weight. I actually dropped down to about 320, and I had the best seasons of my life. I was 2-time all-conference from there on out. I gotten very strong, and that was the best I ever was. So there is a fine line there. Your body, it's kind of like the set point theory where that says your body wants to be a certain weight. Right. I think your body may want to be a specific weight, and I think that can be adjusted, but that's a talk for a different day. But I think there's an upper and lower limit where your body doesn't want to get to. Maybe it just gets diluted because you're too big. Your hormones can't keep up with all that mass. Yeah, it could be that your body can just be set to not be able to handle that much. And then I think it's too little where your body's like, okay, we need some more body fat. We need more. We got to be able to run, or we're used to running with X amount. Now we need somewhere even in that range. So I think that plays a huge part in it. Okay, that's really fascinating. I never thought of that. Yeah, it's something that's not talked about a lot. And I think that's really good for a CrossFitter changing to weightlifting because they're not going to figure that out. They're just going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to cut down, be really lean and as strong as I can. Yeah. And then you get down and you could be failing on weights. You're like, I know this is really easy for me. And then just get frustrated and leave. There you go. Yeah. So what about conditioning? So a lot of CrossFitters are transferring over to weightlifting. That's kind of the theme right now. If you haven't picked that up yet.
But what are you going to say to a CrossFitter who's like, what about my conditioning?
Yeah.
What about my conditioning? I'm just lifting weights.
Really and truly, if you're a CrossFitter, especially starting out in weightlifting, and you're not hitting, you're a beginner. To me, honestly, in my opinion, you're a beginner for your first 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you're just a freak and you're hitting amazing numbers out of the gate, which rarely happens.
Yeah.
As a beginner, go ahead, do a couple WODs a week. That's fine. If that's what you enjoy, do it. As a beginner in anything, in any barbell sport, powerlifting, weightlifting, CrossFit, whatever it may be, do what you enjoy.
Right.
Because no matter what, you're gonna get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Right. As long as you're touching the barbell, you're gonna get stronger. Right. And a little bit more attention in that department will get you a lot stronger.
Right.
Right. So if you enjoy doing WODs, do a few WODs a week. Just remember what's important. Weightlifting becomes more important because you've decided that it's more important. If you want to do WODs, do WODs. Now, once you start getting, let's just say hypothetically, you're still a 77 kilo lifter, and now you're hitting 100 kilo snatch, and now you're hitting 120, 130 clean and jerk. Okay, now you're starting to get out of that beginner level. Now you're starting to get an intermediate level. Okay. So now what we're looking for. Now you got to get a little bit more specific. Now you have to make some changes into how your training is. So now we have to, you listen to Louis Simmons, he always talks about adaptations, making the body adapt. We're talking about guys, squatting well over 1,000 pounds. They're having to find all these crazy adaptations because their body's seen it all at that point. Mm-hmm. Well, now that intermediate lifter's walking in the front door of that realm. Okay. So now we have to start viewing all those now we have to start making it adapt to all these things. Well, it could just be doing more hang work. It could be doing, low hangs. It could be doing pauses, things like that. Now is where you have to start forcing your body to adapt to things. Now is where you have to basically trick your body into getting stronger.
So what do you do to choose those adaptations? What tells you, all right, this guy needs to go from the hang, this guy needs deficit work? What do you look for? Ultimately, it's just wherever you're weak. I mean, there comes a point where, you may, like say if we're, well, I'll back up. I'll say, okay, if you're a person that's really slow in your first pull, like let's say you can hang clean as much as you can clean from the floor, if not more. Okay. Your first pull probably sucks. Right. Your first pull is probably really weak, or your setup's weak. Mm-hmm. So we'll look at your setup. We'll try and fix that. Well, now, if your first pull still sucks and your setup looks good, so now we're going to take you from a deficit, mm-hmm. right? So that you're passing through that first pull as you're already moving. So we're making your body try and produce more force in your first pull. Mm-hmm. Or we may just do more cleaner snatch deadlifts, where just to your knee. Right. So we may do a complex of like 3 clean deadlifts to the knee and then 1 clean, something like that. Just doing a lot of work between the floor and your knee. Let's say you're somebody that you have a really hard time hitting full extension, or you once the weight gets heavy on the snatch or the clean, it starts floating out in front because you're not hitting full extension. Well, we're going to do more hang work, or we're going to do more high hang work where you're reaching that full extension. If you're somebody on the snatch, you hit full extension, but the bar always seems to float out in front. We're going to do more vertical pulling work. We're going to do more power pulls from the hip, things like that. So always trying to hit that specific point, but also we're giving the body something it hasn't seen, mm-hmm. something it has to adapt to. And we're always going to load. We're always going to put a lot of weight on that, forcing the body, okay, body, adapt to this. Right. Figure this out. Adapt to it. Now you're becoming a stronger athlete. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. So it's all about doing these different things. You hear Louis talking about, over speed eccentrics. The eccentric portion is, attributed to 70% of your strength and things like that. And, it's really all just adaptation. Okay, speaking of eccentrics, let's try to solve a problem I have, which you heard about the other day, which is whenever I go for a max front squat or a max clean, or even like you saw on the jerks, I'm always slow on the eccentric. Even with the max front squat, I'm going real slow. Now, do I just need to move faster, or is there something I can do to kind of force myself to move faster? Okay, so Newton's law of for every action, there's equal opposite reaction, mm-hmm. or equal or greater reaction. That's kind of, and to keep quoting Louis Simmons, I guess I'm going to talk about him a lot. So, he made up all this stuff. So. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But he talks about the reason they use bands
isn't so much to push up against it. They're overspeed eccentric. So they're going to pull you down hard and make your body push back up hard, because now you've created a huge reaction down. You've created a huge action down. Now you have to create an even bigger reaction back up.
To go back up.
Yeah, so you've actually overloaded the Golgi tendon and the muscle spindle to make it, okay, we got to do more work than we should. That's why there's guys that are in West Side squatting almost maximal weights with a lot of band tension.
Right.
Because now they're overloading their muscle spindle and Golgi tendons. Okay. So they're so I say that to say, try it. Try going down faster. It's probably going to work. I'm not crazy about that whole bouncing out of the bottom thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I've seen guys get hurt doing that. Most of the time it's because they're out of place. They're not perfect in where their knee positioning and everything is, and But why not? Try it. Do throw some light bands on there. Try some band work. Going down a little bit faster isn't going to be bad as long as you're not getting crazy.
No, I'm going down super slowly, just creeping it down.
Yeah, and I don't even think that's wrong either. I like a good long eccentric. I think it's going to make you strong. Yeah. But when going for a maximal rep, speed it up a little bit. Make that muscle spindle react, make it bounce you back up.
Okay. So now, if we're looking at training schedule, so we've got all this down. We're looking at how much volume do we need to train for weightlifting?
Yeah. So that's based on everybody. Now I'm not going to go, not to say that it's wrong at all, because it definitely has made some amazing lifters, but I'm not going to go all the way over here and say you should be doing Bulgarian, you should be lifting 3 times a week. 3 times a day, 7 days a week. You shouldn't listen to your body. You should go in and lift heavy, and you're going to get stronger, because you will. You definitely will. I think specific people, I don't think everybody can do that, but I think there's a lot of people out there that can. You listen to John Burroughs, he swears by, and he's made some incredible weightlifters like that. So there definitely is a lot there.
But they have really tight tolerances to who they would let in to even try.
Right. Yeah, so with the average person, and we're talking about being on a restricted schedule.
Right.
Like for me, what I'm kind of doing right now, getting ready for the Grand Open in New Orleans, I'm just, because I do usually only have about an hour a day to train. I break it up. I'm kind of doing the squat every day-ish.
Yeah.
So I try and get it in every day. But what I do make sure that I'm doing is that I'm breaking up my lifts throughout the week. So it's usually an hour, because I'm old and brittle. I gotta do my mobility and warm up for a long time. So that takes up a good chunk of my training period. So usually what I'll do, let's say it's Monday, I'll snatch and squat.
Okay.
I'll do some kind of complex or just work up to some heavy reps, snatch and squat. And then Tuesday I may clean and squat. And then Wednesday I may jerk and squat. Mm-hmm. And then Thursday I may snatch and squat. And then Friday, or probably take Thursday, rest, just squat. Friday, snatch, squat. Saturday, clean, jerk, squat. Something to that effect. If I have a little bit more time, I'll do more. Mm-hmm. Once again, it goes back to I have an idea of my week, how much time I have, what I can get in. But that's a pretty basic schedule, something that's, that anybody could easily do.
Right, because, a lot of people aren't going to spend 3 hours, 2 hours in the gym.
Right.
So complexes that you just said sounds interesting, because it sounds like a good way to get a lot of work in without a lot of time.
Yeah.
How do you structure complexes?
So that kind of goes back to what we talked about before about where are your weaknesses. So kind of like what we mentioned before, if you have a horrible first pull, mm-hmm. and we know that's something you need to work on, let's say it really affects you in your clean. Let's say clean. Okay. So on Tuesday's your clean and squat day. We're going to do a 3-position pull. You're going to start from the ground, pull to your knee, back down, pull to your second position, back down, and then pull all the way back down, and then you'll do 2 cleans from the floor, something to that effect, or maybe 1 clean. It is pretty tiring, complex, but so we're hammering that first pull. So that's kind of how we do that, and then because you're doing it twice a week, kind of have a little bit higher intensity, a little bit higher volume. One. So like if we went 3-position pull, 2 cleans, that would be a higher volume. If we went, let's say the end of the week when we did our clean air jerk, it was just 5 singles at 91%, something like that. So that would be a lower volume, more intensity. Other one would be higher volume, less intensity.
And for everyone out there, to define this, intensity is percentage of your 1 rep max. So 90% is going to be more intense than 70%.
Yep. So yeah.
Okay. So, what about competition? When should I start? When should you start entering competitions? At what stage do you think?
I know I hear a lot of coaches say, get in competition as soon as you can. Just get out there, get some stage time. And I know that's hard for a lot of guys because you got to kind of swallow that pride. Like, I'm going to come in dead last and blah, blah, blah. Usually you won't. Usually you'll surprise yourself because I've seen some guys at some competitions that it's like, wow, you just started this. And I applaud them. That's not me being hard on anybody. I applaud that. Like, that takes some serious balls to get up there when you know you're not lifting big weights. So, I think do it if you wait till when you're ready, you're never going to do it. I'd say do it when people start noticing you. So whenever you, like, people in the gym start saying, hey, good job, nice lifts, which is probably going to be sooner than you think.
Yeah.
Sooner than you think. More than anything, pick one way out. Pick one 5 months, 6 months out. Say, I'm doing that one. Sign up for it as soon as it becomes available. Commit to it. That's what you should do. So even if you started today in weightlifting, find a competition. There's one in March downtown here.
Right.
Say, I'm doing that one. Now you have something to train for. Now you're going to train way harder.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. Just commit to one. If you wait for the perfect moment, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I've kind of found that.
Always. It's like it's like what people say about like having kids or getting married. If you wait for the perfect moment, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, that's scary stuff. All right, so that's going to conclude today. I think next week we'll be back for some more weightlifting talk, maybe with Ryan.
Yeah.
Hopefully have Kara back.
Sweet.
And maybe Brandon on if he's here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, see y'all next week.